would you do if you found out that your partner lied about their parents and family's passing, where they were from, and what their age is? Let's talk about Clinton Kane. Hi, I'm Lindsay, and let's talk about the Clinton Kane controversy that's been taking storm over TikTok this past week. With this being said, I would like everyone to know that this is my opinion. With that being said, I am going off what people have said on the internet and what has been written and produced. This controversy recently blew up when Clinton threw shade at his ex, Brooke Schofield, in a promo for his new music video on TikTok, which led Brooke to come onto TikTok and release a 14-part video series exposing their past relationship and all of the problematic and toxic situations that she was put through. For those that have not seen much of the situation or don't know who these two are, let me give you some context. Clinton Kane is a 24-year-old singer who claims he's from Australia. Big surprise, hate to break it to you, he is in fact not from Australia. He's even gone as far as in his public and private life to fake an accent, which you find that he does slip up on very often. As well, in plenty of interviews and online posts made by him, he does claim to have lost his mother, his father, and his brother all in 1 year. Now, Brooke Schofield is a 27-year-old social media influencer, most known for her role as co-host on the podcast Canceled with Tana. Now, Brooke and Clinton are both associated as they dated probably for a couple of months, 2 years prior. Now let's get into the drama. Now, all of this started on June 25th with Clinton releasing a video promoting his new music with the caption, "When you've been over the relationship for 2 years and she won't stop yapping." Which this is truly insane, coming from the person who has lied and manipulated and done everything that he can to twist the narrative, to then turn around and point the finger at your ex, who has only talked about your toxic behaviors online. Ridiculous. Once this TikTok was posted, it then led Brooke to make a 14-part TikTok series aptly named Who the F Did I Marry?, which is an ode to a previous TikTok series made by another content creator. In the beginning of these videos, Brooke talks about how they came to be and how they met. So I'm going to summarize these videos. I'm going to throw in some clips, but we're going to go over everything she said. To start, Brooke talks about how the relationship was 2 years ago. She also gives the disclaimer that she was unmedicated at the time and how that was a different her. Shout out to all my medicated girlies. Ain't no shame in the medicine game. But Brooke states that she was a fan and often listened to his music, that it was something that she would listen to with her roommates around the house, and that one day she actually ended up getting a DM from Clinton. In that DM, he asked to take her to dinner, even offering to fly her out to Vegas, but she declined due to living in LA and not wanting to have to fly to a different state to go on a date with someone who she didn't know, and also she just wasn't interested.
All right, course of the next few months, he would slide up on all my stories, message me constantly. Some would call him obsessed, honestly, but what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna fly to meet a stranger, okay?
Months after his initial DM, he offered her tickets to see him play in LA, which she felt was less pressure than a dinner, and she was going to see a concert of someone that she actually enjoyed. She said he performed a great show, and after the show that she was able to meet him and mingle with him and his friends, which he then invited her to the show that they were having the next night. She goes again to the show the next night, but this time instead of just mingling and breaking off, they ended up going to a club together, where she says that they were able to get a little close and then went to a diner after. And she says that when she was there, she felt he was funny, he was charismatic, he had that personality, which really made him more human, not just someone that you see on the internet. And at this diner, this is where he shares his story with her about his family and his past, his parents and his brother all passing within a year.
We sit there for like 4 hours and just talk, okay? And this is the point where he tells me about what had happened to him in the year prior, all right? This would have been, I guess, 2020, like during COVID, okay? He tells me his mom, his dad, and his brother all died in the same year, okay? Which is fucking horrible. Like, obviously just unimaginable. So I'm like blown away. I knew that his mom had died because he had openly talked about like how one of his songs was about her and stuff, but I had no idea about the rest of his family. So I was like, holy shit, first of all.
He also claimed to have been homeless in Europe while he was backpacking around, how he slept on benches in parks, and how playing music was the way that he made money. On the flip side, though, he then talks with her that night about how he grew up in Perth, Australia, how his family was incredibly wealthy, how they had nannies and maids, and how he lived in a massive mansion with multiple rooms and anything that you could ever really ask for. He talks about how his mom was a pastor at a very popular church in Australia, and that when he was in school, he studied medicine. So Brooke found that there were a lot of connections between the two of them, similar interests, and honestly really just liked his personality, which then led to the next night he asked her out on a date. On that date, they went out to eat at dinner, they went to the beach, all of that fun romantic stuff. But then the next day, he called her while he was going to a set of his music video and found that he tested positive for COVID. In testing positive for COVID, he apologized a bunch and had let her know that he was quarantining at a hotel and had invited her to come stay with him. With Brooke saying she lived with roommates, she had a lot of people around, she couldn't just stay sick with COVID, might as well go and stay with him to quarantine. So while she's there, they're living the life, they're ordering room service, he's singing to her every night, everything's great, love bombing is going insane. But this is also where that toxic behavior starts to show, which is really alarming considering that they probably at this point have been seeing each other for about a week. After a bit of being in the hotel, they end up going to an Airbnb, still quarantining, but he wasn't allowing her to go home. When she would want to go home, like shower, get a change of clothes, just spend time alone, it was immediately, wait, you don't want to be with me? Can I come with you? He was immediately shutting down any possible excuse or option to have her leave and be by herself.
A normal person would have seen this as like a big, major, like, no in a relationship, okay? But I am not a normal person. So I was like, if he wants to be with me all the time, he is obsessed with me, of course. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I believed it was a good thing at the time.
So Brooke really talks about in that moment, instead of seeing it as a red flag, it was a he wants to be with me. He's obsessed, which she also admits in this 14-part series that her friends were really encouraging of her pursuing a relationship with him, saying you would be stupid if you didn't go ahead and date him. He's perfect. His career is blowing up. This is going to be amazing. He's the guy for you. So they started dating. Now, while they're entering the relationship phase, they did go on a couple's trip. When they were on their way driving to the trip, they ended up getting pulled over. When they were pulled over, the cops, like usual, asked for license and registration, which Clinton gave him an Australian license. And while the cop was reading his information back to Clinton while Brooke was in the car, he stated, "Oh, you were born in 1999," as to confirm the information, which Brooke did not know. He was under the impression that he was only a year younger than her. This with him being born in 1999 would make her about 4 years younger.
I'm like, that's really strange. But we keep going, and I ask him about it, and he's like, oh, like, that's a fake ID. I got it mixed up. We got lucky. And I'm in my head like, that doesn't happen.
Now tell me, why would you have a fake ID to make you younger? Makes literally no sense. Now in this series, Brooke talks about on this trip, they had their first blow-up fight at dinner, which all stemmed from Brooke being on her phone when they were eating together, which caused Clinton to just explode. He claimed it was a trigger of his when someone wasn't paying attention to him at dinner, because that was something that his mom commonly did to him when he was growing up. Saying things that reminding him of his mother was a no, and since she died, that it makes things a lot more traumatic from him, basically throwing a tantrum. Now, the overarching theme of this is that she was worsening his trauma because she reminded him so much of his mother, and that she needs to be more sensitive as to what he's going through.
The man lost 3 family members in 1 year. I'm like, he is going through a lot, so I have to give him like a little bit of grace. But it became a situation where I felt like I was like mothering this man, and like if I did anything wrong, or if I like literally split my attention for even 1 second, he went ballistic because he was like a little infant baby child.
And maybe this is a bold take for those of us with trauma, but I thoroughly do believe that it is your responsibility as the person with the trauma to keep yourself in line. It's not other people's responsibility to take care of that. Of course, being respectful and courteous to someone else and their trauma, and not purposely going out of your way to make things worse for them. But if you're the one that suffered those issues, you have to take steps to improve it. At the end of the day, you're the one that has to deal with it. You don't need to take that out on the other people around you. I understand that things can be difficult, but you can't just sit and point at other people and blame you for your trauma and your triggers, but consistently do absolutely nothing about it. Now, Brooke says when she was apart from him, that he would constantly text her when he was out with friends, even at one point stating that he drank a fifth of vodka and that he was going to get in the car and drive. So obviously, where's the red flag guy when you need him? This is super, super manipulative, like textbook. Now, around this time when they were getting serious, Brooke did post a TikTok with him on her page, only to find out later that a lot of girls were commenting on it saying, ooh, girl, no. One girl even commenting that he cheated on his ex-girlfriend with multiple other girls, which he had previously been telling her for their relationship, and while they were getting to know each other, that his ex-girlfriend cheated on him and he was so heartbroken. And so this was news to her. When she confronted him about it, he very blatantly admitted that he did cheat. With that being said though, and with him being incredibly manipulative, he did say, oh, well, she lived in New York, I was in Vegas, the relationship had already been done. You know, we were at that point, we just hadn't cut the ties yet.
What I realized when I really looked into it is I was one of the girls, because like I said, he has been messaging me constantly for the last year, like literally sliding up on every single story I post, trying to fly me out. When he tried to fly me out to dinner that time, they were actively in a relationship. So I'm sick because, first of all, I feel like I somehow had like a part in it, and I felt disgusting about that. And just the fact that like I could never have imagined that he was like capable of doing something like that because of how like romantic he was and like what a love bomber he was. I was like, I what on earth do you mean?
I don't blame her for feeling gross for having been a part of that, and especially not knowing. It's so gross because he's such a manipulator, in my opinion. While Brooke's post on TikTok and all these girls are commenting is going on, Clinton is in the process of releasing his album, and it's the first one that he's releasing since all of the trauma that he's had to go through the past year. During his press release for the album, he did go on the Zach Sang show, who is known to be a pretty good friend of Clinton. During that interview, they talk about a lot of really deep things, about his family passing, how they needed to view the funeral, over a live stream because of COVID.
Your mom passed?
Yeah.
Your brother passed?
Mm-hmm.
And your dad passed?
1 year, yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. Chicken Tendies is actually about losing my mom. And I had a talk with my publicist about explaining how to explain, because I wasn't ready to talk about it yet last year, about like losing my mom. But she passed away like 2-3 weeks after the song came out, after Chicken Tendies came out. That's why like I had to take a break, and there was like a lot of start and stopping. But that song was actually about losing my mom. But my publicist and I found a way to like make it seem real enough, because it's still real, like losing her to religion. But I have.
You did kind of lose her before she was gone, right? Because you didn't have much of a relationship with her.
No, it was all gone. But it was already complicated before.
Which, on a personal note, I had my father pass away during COVID, and unfortunately he was in Connecticut when I was in Texas, and I wasn't able to make the funeral. As someone who did actually have to live stream a funeral for my own parent, and knowing that he's lied about these types of things, I cannot get over how disrespectful and hurtful that is, and it is such a traumatic and hard thing to deal with. I just think it's insane to use something that is so hard and so terrible as pity points for other people. I also do think it's funny that in this interview how he gets called out for his accent and, oh, I need to go back to Australia, mate. Like, it's so stupid.
Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you, mate. Love you.
That was the strongest your accent's been since you've been in here.
Yeah.
It sounded pretty American until you just said sorry.
Really?
Mate. Yeah.
Damn it.
You gotta fix that.
I have to go back to Australia and hibernate over there.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like us.
I don't.
No, it's
the last thing I want.
I agree. It's atrocious.
No, I actually do love American accents.
Now the next morning he's on a call with this manager and begging him to get the Zach interview off at any and all cost. She says that while she's in bed next to him, she turns over, looking at comments, and sees comments calling him out, with one person saying that this is so strange. They don't know where this accent came from because he's not from Australia. This commenter on that interview went to school with him and literally said that they saw his mom last week. Now, as Brooke should, she was curious and very doubtful of everything that he had said. She now has reason to believe that he is not from Australia, that he has now faked the death of some of his family, and on top of that, had just found out that, yeah, he totally lied about his ex. So she staged a whole fight so she'd be able to leave, which in her video she states, which was really hard to do because he wouldn't let her leave often. So she goes home and starts to look for his mom on Facebook.
Okay? And I looked her up on Facebook. She has 2 accounts, okay? And on neither of them has she posted since the date that she was supposed to have died. So in my head, I'm like, okay, it's possible she's dead. But it's also possible that she is not, which, like, you guys. But here's the thing, okay? He had told me so many stories about his childhood and his life growing up, and told me all about his mom and what she looked like. She was Norwegian and blonde, okay? He would tell me about what his house looked like and how they had nannies and maids, and he was so wealthy, and his mom would leave for months at a time because she also had, like, she had all these, like, crazy businesses in addition to her being a pastor. Like, I don't even know how in my right mind I, like, did not see right through this, but he would tell me all these elaborate stories. And now I'm looking at her Facebook profile, and his life was nothing of the sort.
Now, when she finally found his mom's Facebook, which she states that she has a pretty interesting name, not something that's very common, she finds that everything he said about growing up was not true. Now, she was not able to find any proof that she was alive, as she hadn't posted since the date that he said that she passed, but through her profile was able to see where he grew up, the house that he was in, the location that he was in, and even what his mother looked like. While he was claiming she was Norwegian and blonde, she was Asian, which is so weird to lie about. Like, to lie even to the core of your ethnicity is insane. So basically found out that everything that he had said about his life was fake and that he's fabricated everything. At this point, it's the age, it's his parents, it's his family and who's alive and who's not, where he grew up, how he grew up. He has completely made himself up. And Brooke says at this point that she knew she needed to break up with him, but that she has a hard time leading people and really just didn't know what to do. With all of this recent information that she stumbled upon, she sent him a text and gave him the opportunity to confess and come clean about everything that he had been lying about. And the only thing that he decided to come clean about was his age, saying that he's actually 22.
And as, like, lighthearted and, like, funny as I can make the story now, like, I cannot explain to you, like, what I felt in that moment. It was genuinely the worst feeling I've ever felt in my entire life, because it was like I've never been obviously lied to in that way, but, like, I spend so much time with this person. He's my best friend. I'm in love with him. I am dating him. Like, he's the closest person in the world to me, and he made himself up. I did text him and I said, listen to me. I'm going to give you the opportunity right now to tell me if there's anything that you've lied to me about at all. And he racked his brain for all of 5 minutes before he told me I had lied about my age. I am 22 years old.
Now, at this point, she confronts him, unfortunately does not have any hard evidence, but tells him that she knows that he's lying, hoping that he would just confess, but instead he actually doubles down on the claim and spins it around on her to be, how terrible of a person are you to say that my mother didn't pass, that none of this stuff happened. Just making her feel so demoralized and horrible and guilty. And she even says in her video that she grew up poor. She has no expectation of who someone is supposed to be. So it's really odd that he wants to be perceived as this person who's very rich and had a very lavish upbringing. I think in the industry, and I can't speak much about it because I don't know, I'm not in it, I don't know folks who are in it, but I wonder if there is an air of seeming grand. In his case, that you want to be perceived as a sob story, but also at the same time that you had money and you were well off and you were successful from a young age. It's a very weird dichotomy that he kind of throws in this situation, that it's, I was homeless, I was on the park bench in Europe, but I grew up super rich in Australia and I had an 8-room mansion and all of this stuff. It's really, really bizarre. Now, she does stay with him after this whole Facebook search and confrontation, but does say that their fights got so much worse after this point. And inevitably, everything came to a head when she found out that he was cheating on her with multiple other girls, which their breakup did come because she accused him of cheating, which he adamantly denied, only to find out later that he in fact was cheating on her.
But I will spare you guys the details of how I found out that I was getting cheated on, okay? But boy, was I. Y'all have seen him. Like, was I wrong to think I didn't really have to worry about that? It's truly amazing what he was able to accomplish. But he was, in fact, cheating on me with so many people. Like, literally, and like I said, we spent every single second together. So if I, like, matched up the timelines, it would be like we were, like, laying in bed watching Bridgerton, and he'd be, like, sending a dick pic to somebody else. So that was something. And that is ultimately why we did break up. But what's interesting about that is we broke up because I accused him of cheating and he couldn't believe I would ever have the nerve.
Once everything started to hit the fan, Brooke said she finally had the confidence to ask him about his mom one last final time, which as soon as she brought it up, he immediately started to deny once again, which she very quickly turned it around on him saying, "Hey, I've actually been talking to your mother," which she hadn't, but he fell for her bluff and finally admitted that he did fake the death of his mother and his brother, but that his father had actually passed. Since all these videos have come out, TikTok has been a feeding frenzy about Clayton Kane, and his publicist must be trying to work overtime to fix the situation. An article by the Rolling Stones was published on June 27th about Clayton Kane in reference to his mother passing and all of the recent controversy that's come out. In the article, it stated Brooke Schofield blasted Clayton Kane for being a master manipulator, lying about his mother's death. The singer is now denying her accusations. He claimed that he had been referencing the death of a mother-like figure all along, and that Brooke's recent comments regarding Clinton are untrue. In my opinion, I think this article is super, super odd. I'm going to link it below if you do want to take a look at it. It's very evident that this is a one-sided and very biased article in the favor of Clinton. It does not look like they did any research or contact Brooke whatsoever. So to call yourself journalism and to report on something where there are now multiple allegations and ways to prove that this is false, it really doesn't give any sense of proper journalism or good investigation, in my opinion. The article continues with stating that Clinton regrets the way this devastating news was communicated at the time, probably now because he's exposed for lying, and that Clinton's rep said that he did live in Australia for a period of time and considers it home. As well, the end of the article has a comment from his rep stating, "The public rehousing of these details is only an attempt to bring attention and focus on Brooke's podcast at the expense of tearing down another former boyfriend, a tactic she's become known for." In my opinion, that statement is absolutely ridiculous. Brooke and Tana have a very successful podcast that has over 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and each video has either 1 million views and or more on average. They have absolutely no need for that type of press. And as well, they've been successful with this podcast for a while. It's not like this growth has been sudden. And this is just information that's on YouTube. This doesn't include the amount of streams they've had on Spotify, on Apple's podcasts, and other places where podcasts are available. Brooke, as of yesterday, did make a response video to the Rolling Stones article.
This article was published in Rolling Stone. Okay, Rolling Stone, who actually reached out to me in 2023, all right? Several times. We were already publishing a story on Clinton, okay? It was already a thing. People knew about it, okay? Ultimately, I decided I wanted no involvement. As you can see here, I feared for his mental health, okay? I didn't want anything to do with that because I couldn't do it in good conscience. They even offered to let me do it anonymously, and I ghosted them, okay? So please, Clinton's publicist, if you exist and if you are listening, please help that man.
Now, I do believe the situation is absolutely wild, and I would like to state, like I said in the beginning, that this is all information that I got from TikTok or other folks online. All of this to be said is opinion. Would like to touch on one or two things before we wrap this up. With Clinton in this Rolling Stones article saying that it was a mother figure, I find is odd. With that being said, if it truly was a mother figure, to go on all of these press tours, to go on all of these conferences and opportunities to speak to people. He had plenty of chances to clear up the air or say something different than just my mother. Simple as that. He himself has gone out and said that his mother has died when it's very true that she is alive. I think there were a lot of ways that if that was the truth, which in all honesty, I do not believe it is. I believe it's a cover-up, that there are many of ways that he could have addressed any of his interviews or his own posts very differently. On top of that, just the fact that he's lied about his entire life when he's now in a position of power and status and has money, and talking about that when you're in that situation of power is really bizarre because it doesn't affect where he is now. It just seems like he wants the pity party and for people to give him that attention and give him the "you're so great, pat yourself on the back" kind of situation. He's already popular. He has the record deal. He has those songs that are played at weddings now. It's super bizarre, this entire situation. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Please let me know what you think about this. If I missed any information, pop it in the comments. And if you have anything else that you'd like to hear me talk about, please let me know. But for now, stay safe, have a good one, and thank you.